Here we go, working this pounding the gavel thing here, but seeing a quorum of voting members, I call the February 9th, 2026 Cincinnati School Board meeting to order. Let's see. Superintendent Murphy, please introduce the wonderful students from Evanston Junior High School who will be virtually leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Happy to do so, and would invite everybody to join us in standing with the Evanston students, where Brittany Tudor is their principal.
Class, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
All righty. Treasurer Guston, please call the attendance roll.
Ms. Armbruster.
Here.
Ms. Bolton.
Present.
Mr. Crossett. Here. Mr. Lindy.
Here.
Ms. Mapp.
Here.
Vice President Moffitt. Here. President Craig.
Here.
Mr. Craig,
Yes.
as we get started, I'd like to make a motion to waive the 48-hour requirement and amend tonight's proposed meeting agenda. The proposed agenda change that I am motioning would be to approve a resolution for a cost of living adjustment pursuant to recent union negotiations.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Treasurer Guston, or any discussion around the waiver of the 48-hour? Seeing none, Treasurer Guston.
All right, Ms. Armbruster.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yes.
Mr. Crossett. Yes. Mr. Lindy.
Yes.
Ms. Mapp.
Yes.
Vice President Moffitt.
Yes.
President Craig.
Yes. All right. Vice President Moffitt, would you please explain the virtual hearing of the public process?
Do we have anyone online, Rob? Anyone? No, thank you. I mean, do we have anyone online to speak for hearing of the public?
Not as of now, but they normally wait till after the announcements, so
Okay.
they still have time to sign up.
Well, now's the time, I apologize. Members of the public who are online and wish to speak during a hearing of the public this evening may do so by clicking the chat button right now. The chat feature will be open for your request for 5 minutes. If you would like a direct response to your questions, please make sure to share your name, your affiliation to the district, your school community, your topic, and your contact information. So click that button right now.
All righty. Sorry about that. Thanks for stalling for me there. Vice President. I need a motion and a second to approve the February 9th, 2026 business meeting agenda with the amended addition there.
So moved.
Second.
Treasurer Guston?
Ms. Armbruster.
Yes.
Ms. Bolton.
Yes.
Mr. Crossett. Yes. Mr. Lindy.
Yes.
Ms. Mapp.
Yes.
Vice President Moffitt.
Yes.
President Craig.
Yes. All right, so tonight's agenda is approved as amended. First, do any board members have any acknowledgements or announcements? Vice President.
I do have one kudos. I was able to brave the cold weather at the Aiken groundbreaking ceremony. I'm going to defer, I caught the pictures, but I'm going to defer to the superintendent and to Board Member Bolton to describe a little bit more about what was going on. But this was a great event, and we've got some great stuff coming at Aiken. So I'm going to let, I think Board Member Bolton was very instrumental in bringing that on. So want to describe what's happening at Aiken?
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. It's important. It's been in the works. The board will recall a couple of years ago when this was first presented. I think Mr. Lindy was president at the time, and we had people visit us and they said that they were interested in finding a way to build a facility on our campus in Aiken to not be the ultimate maker shed, if you will. And indeed, that foundation has come to fruition, and that camping foundation has put forward the monies to build this facility. And the ceremony to groundbreak in a frigid ground took place, and appreciated everybody to be there. And I know that they've already started to plan for the ribbon cutting as well. And this will be used by Aiken students. It will also be used by any number of other students throughout the district and actually throughout the region. And what's very particularly interesting, which I was unfamiliar with at the time, is that this was first designed to be at Burnett Woods. And the reality was the city had some issues regarding, as you all know, the use of Burnett Woods. And so it was decided by the family, the Schumann family that is helping fund this, to put it where their son had been a volunteer at Aiken for some time. So this is a great addition to not only the farm, but the whole effort of not only ag ed, but also connecting even with Mount Airy Forest and the pond that is there and the pathway that goes from the Aiken Forest into the Mount Airy Forest. So a fantastic show also by the Future Farmers of America there that night, that day, and appreciated the folks that showed up. It's very exciting.
All right, other board members with Ms. Armbruster?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to our schools as they have been dealing with the inclement weather. They've done a tremendous job. I am on a tour of all of our schools and have had the pleasure of visiting 12 buildings so far. I should have been to more, but we've had some inclement weather that has canceled those. But the ones I have been to, we've talked a lot about what they've been doing to help the students not miss as much learning as possible. I even had the chance at Rockdale to staple some of the packets they were sending home in anticipation for the snow day at the suggestion of our lovely deputy superintendent. So our schools are out there doing their best to make sure our students are prepared for the weather and aren't missing all instruction. So just wanted to shout out the amazing staff we have.
Others? Board Member Lindy?
Thank you very much, President Craig. I had the chance to visit Roselawn Condon on Friday morning in the middle of another snowstorm, and wanted to say how much I appreciated meeting two first grade teachers and their students. This is Ms. Glass and Ms. Voet. Wonderful, warm classrooms, and I had some students read me stories that they had written and show me the addition and subtraction project that they were working on, and it was just great. I want to thank also Principal Few for being gracious with her time and flexibility, and just really appreciated the chance to be there on Friday. Thanks.
And Board Member Mapp?
Yes, thank you. I had the pleasure to attend Royal Hill Academy last week, and you all know that I'm always talking about systemic work, and I was so ecstatic to see all of the great things that is happening at Royal Hill Academy. And I just really have to set the scene for you all, because here we do a great job of trying to monitor progress. And I want to just highlight the work that they're doing in the school building. And so there was a frequent and prevalent use of the curriculum, and using the curriculum to ultimately work towards meeting state standards and progress monitoring. And so you were able to see how everyone within the school, even the students, were working towards accomplishing the goals that have been set out within that building. And so I just want to commend Principal Vicki Graves Hill, as well as Assistant Principal Ms. April Thompson, for all of the great work. So much so that they're having data literacy conversations. They're having conversations with the students and having a data folder to say, this is where you are standing with your grade level scores in those different content areas, where they are with the iReady scores, as well as where they are with their state tests, and giving them specific feedback on how to improve. So I just really wanted to stress and highlight the systemic work, and something that I think can be modeled throughout our district as we're talking about improving student outcomes. And just lastly, they are having a grand opening for their library on February 13th from 10 to 11 a.m.
All righty, any other board members? I will just throw a general thank you to everyone who helped facilitate and make sure that we had our Saturday meeting go off without any issue. And that includes the folks who came out to make sure the building was warm and ready, but also the folks who attended and participated, and the folks who were providing their thoughts and feedback afterwards. Because again, I think this work is something that is built off of the folks who support us and who work with us every single day. And so just want to show appreciation for folks who came out in the cold at really early in the morning, who was there to help. Superintendent Murphy, Treasurer Guston, do you have any announcements or retirements that you may want to?
Yes, sir. I have one retirement, and this retiree is a civil service employee. Ms. Diane Weber is the lunchroom manager at Midway School. We thank her for her service, and we congratulate her. And then, President, I do have a couple of kudos I want to share. The first kudos has to do with the School for Creative and Performing Arts. Board Member Armbruster and I were at the Gala 26. It was amazing. It was awesome. So I want to congratulate everyone who poured into that, even the students who were extremely visible and showing off their amazing talent. And the second one I had, Board Member Moffitt has already acknowledged, so I'll be brief. And it's the groundbreaking ceremony for our Urban Wilderness Center. And you can see the kids, the Aiken students, actually breaking ground. And the last one, I don't have a slide for, but I do want to share with the public, if you're interested in volunteering this week at Woodward Career Technical High School, they are having Sticks for Kicks. And you may recall, Sticks for Kicks is for our phlebotomy students. They have to have a certain number of sticks, yes, with a needle in your arm or your hand, in order to sit for their phlebotomy examination. So that's going on tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday at the school from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And they are asking people to register, but the kids really need you to get this certification. Thank you.
All righty. I do want to take a little personal privilege here because I forgot to give an update, or forgot to give an update or kudos to the wonderful folks who came out in the terrible snowstorm in January for the High School Ethics Bowl competition. CPS had several schools who did very well in that competition, including several that finished in the top 8, and one finishing just outside the top 8. I know it was a tremendous showing, and the folks who were the leaders with the High School Ethics Bowl talked about how close some of those competitions were for even some of our students who finished just outside of the 8, that they were like fractions of a point in each round outside. So it is something that's amazing. It is something that we lead in the area, providing students who participate. And it is now the largest regional high school ethics bowl. That's in large part because of CPS's efforts and the folks who want to come out and now hang out with us and our students and challenge in that battle. So I just wanted to also give the students who were out there in the snow and competing on the Saturday, and then they had to do an alteration on the Sunday to make it remote, but also the folks who volunteered for it. Really appreciate everybody's support there. I will turn this over to Vice President Moffitt to do our hearing of the public.
Rob, do we have anybody? Okay, so we are now at the item on our agenda for the hearing of the public. Each speaker will have 2 minutes and will address all comments to the presiding officer. If you do have any materials or presentations wanting to be distributed to the board, please give them to our board administrative assistant, Ms. Phyllis Davis. If you are online, once a request to speak has been granted, you will be invited to enter. You should click on the camera icon to go interactive. Provide your name, your affiliation to the district, your school community, your topic, and your contact information, especially if you'd like a response to any questions you may have. This request is consistent with board protocol, and we appreciate your help. In the very unusual event that someone is not willing to follow this protocol, we reserve the right to end that person's time. Again, each person will have 2 minutes, and when the timer goes off, your time is up. Please refrain from discussing any personnel items. And after speaking, if you are online, you'll briefly see the welcome screen again as you transition back to the live stream meeting. Finally, we do ask that your public commentary be very respectful to all listeners. Our first speaker is...
Taiwana Watson, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Good evening, district. My name is Taiwana Watson. I am a parent in the district of a high school student and also a resource coordinator at an elementary school in the district. I come to you this evening to speak as a parent, and I just wanted to share a concern for the high school that my student attends. I'm not sure if I'm able to say what high school that is, but here about a month after grades were to be reported, and we are now on the other side of midterm for third quarter. And as parents at my son's high school, we have not seen any grades loaded for first semester. This is extremely concerning to me because my son does participate in the CCP program, and we are looking to get him into a different university, and we haven't been able to do so because his GPA and grade information has not yet been made available. And that is the extent of my comment. I will give you your time back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Tawana, maybe put that in the chat and we can get it, some further information to you. I don't have any papers here, so I think we are now concluded with our hearing of the public.
All right. So let us, Superintendent Murphy, please, would you introduce your first presentation?
Yes, sir. Happy to introduce this presentation. We are super excited about sharing with you where we are with our Montessori teacher training program. This is brand new to our school district. You may recall that in the past, our teachers have trained primarily through Xavier University. Xavier University no longer has that program, and so this year we've been doing the work to be able to establish one for ourselves that is scheduled to launch this summer. And so Assistant Superintendent Deb Klein is going to give us an update about the work that's been going on since the start of the school year to this point. Deb?
You have to press the button. There you go. Perfect.
Thank you, Superintendent Murphy. Good evening, board members, Board President Craig, Vice President Moffitt. As Ms. Murphy said, I am very excited to be here to share an update on the work that has been done around the teacher education program. It was an idea that came to us about a year ago, and here we are, and really excited about where we are with it. So just giving you a little bit of history around the Montessori. As you know, we have a deep-rooted history of Montessori public education in Cincinnati Public Schools since 1975, so it goes back a long time. We have 2 accredited high schools, which would be Clark and Gamble, and we also have currently 7 Montessori elementary schools, but if we're talking about the history, we had 6 not that long ago, just last year, and none of those schools were accredited Montessori schools. But there was this huge desire to have all of our schools accredited, just like our high schools. So about 2 years ago, that desire was talked about more and more from teachers, staff, families, community, And so we embarked on that. Like, what does it take for us to be able to get our elementary schools accredited? So we took all of our elementary principals, some teachers, others to the American Montessori Society National Conference and started to learn more about that. And right away, we collectively found out there were a couple barriers. One of those was that we had to have multi-age classrooms in all of our elementary schools, Montessori schools, and we had a couple of buildings that were not that. And when we say multi-age, that means 3 grade levels in a classroom. We also found out that we had a number of schools that did not have teachers that were credentialed Montessori teachers. So before you could move on to accreditation with any of the schools, you have to get those into place. And so again, we learned a lot about that then and started again continuing those conversations. Today, now, we have Bramble, Montessori Lab School that is with us. And we are blessed that they came to us and they are an accredited elementary school. So we do have one now that is accredited and they came with that. So we're very excited about that. But also with Bramble coming over again was more information in this desire around this teacher education program. Like, how can we do this here so that we can get all 6 of our elementary schools accredited? So from next slide. So with that being said, last year, again, about this time, we began a lot of conversations with the folks that you see listed there on the screen. We engaged deeply with the Montessori Lab School teachers, staff, and families. They had a lot of insight into this work. We engaged with the American Montessori Society, the MACD, which is the accreditation arm. We engaged with donors and grant providers, as well as our in-house folks, meaning teachers from all of our Montessori schools, not just Bramble, but all of them. Montessori coach that we had on staff here, instructional leadership teams, as well as district departments. Next slide. So with that being said, we were able to come up with our goal. And our goal was really, yes, making sure that we have all of our multi-age classrooms, which, by the way, 2 years after that meeting down at the national conference, we were able to get that accomplished. All of our classrooms are now multi-age. We are back to that model. Yes, that is a kudos. And then we were able to dive deeply into this credentialing model for teachers. But we quickly realized, yes, we have to have our teachers credentialed, but this is going to add so much more to Montessori. And what we mean by that are the things that you see there on that slide. We're really looking at increased student achievement across all of our schools. So if we get our teachers credentialed, high quality, they're in front of our students at all of our buildings. We're looking to grow enrollment. So we're then offering, again, high quality seats in all of our schools. Of course, strengthen community engagement as we go down this path of what does Montessori look like in the future, not only here in Cincinnati Public, but in the city, and being a part of a bigger national movement, if you will, as we look at this program being developed. And then, of course, our ultimate goal, we will then be able to have all of our buildings, our elementary buildings, accredited. So once that goal was established, we then had a lot of work to do. So we started identifying the teachers that we needed to have or needed to complete credentialing. We identified the program's vision and mission, and there's a link there. We're not going to click on it, but it's there for you to review. This program vision mission was developed with teachers, again, some district leaders. We had parents at the table with us and had a conversation about what is this really going to be and mean. We determined the program name and had some branding, and you see that up in the corner there. That is our logo and branding, if you will. It is officially called the Montessori Training Institute at Cincinnati Public Schools. So we have a brand for this as we, again, get out into the broader Montessori community to market this program. We have secured some donor money from anonymous funders as well as grantors. We have developed course maps. So the credentialing program for teachers is going to be a 2-year program. And again, not going to click on these, but they're there for your reference. It lays out the entire 2-year program for you. And essentially, teachers that are not credentialed will be able to do that within that 2 years, which is a little bit more of an accelerated pace than what we have been doing in the past through Xavier University. We have secured Montessori materials, textbooks for the cohort 1. And we have also worked to identify instructors for our program. Our instructors for the teacher education program are going to be from Cincinnati Public Schools. We have a wealth of a number of teachers who are credentialed, who are highly qualified to be able to be our adult learner instructors for this program. We have, I believe it's 16 that we have identified. We have vetted all of them through a application process, resume, those types of things. But we have representation from all of our elementary schools. So these instructors that will be leading the adult learners are from our schools in-house. And then we have begun those weekly meetings with the instructors. On the next slide, I mentioned that we had to identify the number of teachers that needed credentialing. So as it stands right now, this school year, we have about 33 educators who are not credentialed and who would be able to participate with us beginning in June. So that is a large portion. You will see that 11 educators are in our Montessori 6 to 9 classrooms, which are grades 1 through 3. And then 22 of the educators in our 9 to 12 classroom, which are grades 4 through 6. We felt that it was necessary to start with our greatest need, and that's why our cohort 1 program is focusing on these 2 groups that you see here, 33 teachers. A part of the teacher education program, we do have to go through an affiliation and accreditation process for the program. Okay, we have to have our program accredited. So we will be working with MACD, the Montessori Accreditation Council for Teacher Education, as well as the American Montessori Society for affiliation. We could have done one by itself, MACD, but we felt it was important to bring AMS along with us and do them simultaneously because we are so deeply rooted and in collaboration with all of our schools with affiliation, and a lot of our teachers are already members with them. So we felt like it was very important to continue that. Also, the American Montessori Society has a little bit higher standard than MACD does as well. So we wanted to make sure we had the best of the best in our program as far as requirements. Through the process, accreditation, affiliation process, we have a 2-year self-study that we'll be completing. There'll be site visits, and then of course we would, with feedback, then adjust, and then eventually get our affiliation and accreditation granted. The accreditation process runs simultaneously with the teacher education program. So we will have adult learners in the program. At the same time, we are applying for accreditation. So it runs simultaneously. So program costs, and this is always the question, and we know how important this is to everyone at the table. So 33 learners, but let me back up a second. So in the past, we have been contracting with Xavier University, and it was $10,000 approximately per learner per year. So it's a 2-year program, so that's $20,000 per learner to finish the program. We also only had the capacity to do 10 adult learners a year. So as you can see, that's probably one of the biggest contributors why year after year we could never get our staffs fully credentialed, and therefore could never get to accreditation at the school level. We just were on this wheel and never being able to catch up. So on this slide, again, 33 learners with the previous program. Over there on the right, it would have cost us for a 2-year program for The instructors and materials, about $660,000. With the Montessori Training Institute at CPS, we are looking to be able to do this for about $60,000 for all 33 learners, and that would be a 2-year program. Now, that includes just the instructors and the materials. So the reason that this cost is so much lower is you have an instructor fee, and the instructor fee stays constant whether you have one adult learner or if you have the maximum number of learners. And then all that we're carrying on from there is the materials. There is an additional link there at the bottom if you're interested. We broke it down by 1 learner, 3 learners, 5 learners, so you could see how we got to that final number. But again, the instructors are your constants, and that's the same no matter if you have 1 learner or the whole group. We have had some additional costs as we get this up and running this year as we've been planning and working with teachers. And so that is also into this, or some additional costs that we have incurred. But overall, if you look at the cost of the program, that is your direct comparison as to what we were paying previously. And then finally, again, we are so super excited. We dug into, what does it take to do this? How much is it going to cost? The input from teachers, staff, community, so forth. And now we have some more work to do. And we started with this big idea. We got into the really granular part of this, the handbook, the program, the vision, and now we're starting to come back out again, ready to engage with our Montessori Coalition. There's actually a meeting tomorrow evening that'll be led by our school principals and involves ILTs, PTOs, LSDMC representation at those meetings. We will begin writing the self-study and preparing for site visits. We are also working very closely with the instructors that we identified to create standards-aligned Montessori curriculum and syllabi. This is really important to our program as this is public Montessori and truly important to us as we want to be standards-aligned. We are engaging again with those 33 learners, getting them registered for the program, continuing to work with some of our partners, donors, to continue the work there. We are over at Bramble getting ready to set up an actual classroom space, learner space, where the adult learners will be able to go and practice, take classes, and use the materials there. We're also looking to take a group of our instructors to the American Montessori National Conference this year as well, so we can continue to learn, expand our marketing as well. As a couple years down the road, we want to expand this into a revenue generator, so really getting the word out about what's happening here in Cincinnati Public, one of the very first to our knowledge. And then, of course, the end goal there is launching cohort 1 beginning June 26, which is quickly approaching. So that is all I have for you, and open it up to questions.
All righty. Board members, do we have any questions? Board Member Armbruster.
I do. So Montessori mom here.
Yes.
Very important subject for me. So I love that the district adopted the Montessori curriculum, and you're supporting the the credentialing journey. Super great to see. I do think one of the opportunities the district has to help these elementary schools along that way is to do more opportunities to help them apply our overall district curriculum to their classrooms. I've heard it from not just my own school, from other Montessori schools as I've been out and about in the community, that they're struggling to help that balance of being like, well, I have to do iReady, which has literally nothing to do with Montessori curriculum, but I also have to do all these other things. And so I think as a district, we should do more to help train them on ways that they can help adapt our district curriculum to their everyday Montessori pedagogy, and do that across schools, right? So we have some teachers that are already doing it tremendously. So how can we help them talk to the newer teachers for the district? And then also we need to do better making sure as a board that we are, and administration, we are not making decisions that are impacting the credentialing process for these schools. So when we're looking at staffing allocations, when we're looking at pulling out middle schools, we're impacting their ability to stay credentialed, and we need to keep that into consideration because it is a different process than every other school. And that's just one of the ways we vocalize our support a lot for Montessori. We see a lot of success in those test scores and those students, and then we turn around and we do make a decision without thinking about how it's impacting them. And so I think we just need to do a better job of making sure that we bring that forward in those decisions. And I'll just say the parents I've spoken to about the elementary school accreditation, they feel very strongly about it because it does show a long-term commitment from the district to maintain those things like staffing, like keeping the multi-level classrooms, things like that. So I appreciate your work on this. I'm super excited to see the cost. Amazing. I can't wait to get it up and running.
Yeah, very exciting. I do want to add to that, just you brought up the curriculum and with the Montessori. We have added Montessori collabs this year where teachers are participating in professional development with our adopted curriculum and Montessori, and how does that marry together. So we put an emphasis on that this year, and they meet just as Montessori schools to do that. So that is a really exciting thing, I think, that we're doing to
That's
address
awesome.
that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that
You're
work.
welcome.
All right, Board Member Mapp.
I really, as a Montessori parent, that was the same question as well, and concern, and wanted you to speak more specifically on what the merging of the curriculums look like, because as I talked about going to Roe Hill, being able to see the curriculum actively at work, to see that the students have a connection to that curriculum. And so recognizing that also we're seeing a higher proficiency rate or passage rate with our students in the neighborhood schools versus our Montessori schools. And we want all of our schools to excel, right? But we recognize, and this is a truth here, that we're prioritizing financially or with support the Montessori program. And so it should yield more outcomes there. And so I would be interested as well to see what that collaboration looks like, what the oversight will look like to make sure that it's actually in practice, right? And we're not just saying that, okay, we're using the Montessori curriculum, we're also using the adopted curriculum by the board, but it's not done, with actual fidelity. And so just making sure that we're being accountable to that work. And if there's any additional things that you want to share about what that collaboration would entail, I'm definitely interested in hearing it.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, just being aligned to the standards, state of Ohio, right? So we have an adopted board curriculum, we have a Montessori curriculum, and if we stay true to the standards, we have these tools, right? The Montessori tools and the district adopted curriculum. And it's really about supporting the Montessori teachers and how can we do that together. We have some really great Montessori materials for math, right? But we have to make sure that we're aligned to the grade level standard. But we can teach it using this Montessori material perhaps, and then assess in ways that are aligned to the grade level standards. So that's really what that work is about, is staying aligned to the standards and being able to support the teachers with that, the tools that they have in front of them. And that takes time. I know when I'm out in schools visiting, working with principals, we have, again, a Montessori coach, we have curriculum managers. We have done many instructional review walkthroughs with the Montessori schools and be able to provide that feedback and support as well.
Okay, so there actually has been work already established in looking at the two different curriculums and seeing how they
Early work. Yeah,
Okay.
early work. Yeah,
Okay.
it is a work in progress. We're getting better and better as the weeks go by. And I think, as I mentioned, the Montessori collabs have really added to that. And again, things are getting stronger as we go. But that's the direction that we're headed.
Okay, thank you.
I see Board Member Bolton.
Oh, thank you. I do recall, I think it was 2 years ago, when I think I was out at Sands, as a matter of fact, when they had the big public rah-rah, when we announced that we had adopted, as a board, had adopted the Montessori curriculum, and very excited about it. Unlike other folks on the board, I'm not a big fan of Montessori. It's not in my experience. But what I have learned these number of years on this board is that for CPS, Montessori has been a gift from the gods. And so even though I'm not predisposed to be, as an educator, a Montessorian, I know that Montessori not only has benefited the district and the children and the families within the district, but indeed, when you look at our Montessori schools, they are among the most diverse, culturally, economically. They are among, as a cohort, among our most successful schools. And it is also something of which we take great pride in regarding the first public high school. And of course, now we have one for East and West in the early efforts. I think, too, the interesting thing about the Montessori piece is that I was fortunate enough, and I think I was sitting in one of those center seats when this happened, but I got to be part of the telephone conversation with the American Montessori Society folks that were interested in what was happening here, and they were effusive. They were over the moon that CPS was taking this responsibility, not only for us, because they know we are a leader, but more particularly, they understood that Montessori gets damaged based upon state testing and based upon the kinds of things that state standards, impose. And they thought if we could find a way to make that still work, that would be beneficial for it to expand nationally. Now, the other piece of the Montessori experience, I think, is not just that it has been the body of magnet schools that we've kept in the last several years as we've been getting rid of a number of self-sustaining magnet schools for various and sundry reasons. I think it is a big part of our brand. And I think the brand of Montessori also has helped create the culture of CPS. I think looking at Montessori, and we have somebody, a very distinguished person here, whose dad had something to do with all of this, if I recall correctly, sir? Yes, go ahead.
So, yes, in the summer of 1975, I sat on our screen porch with my father, Nancy Rambush, as they hammered out the first curriculum for the very first public Montessori school in North America in Mount Adams, which is now, over time, has evolved into Sands Montessori. And I just thought it was my dad going to work, but now I know that it was a gift from God.
It was a gift from God, for sure.
But yeah, I got to visit the very first classroom that they put up in the Mount Adams school, and it was a very innovative, unique classroom without typical desks and all of that, so.
I think the conclusion for me from that telephone conversation, the conversation, if I recall, ended with them knowing that we were going to be not only a local site, but a regional site for education and accreditation for teaching Montessori, but actually even talked about it being a national site. And I think that kind of puts Bramble in that kind of perspective too, that these early steps have helped us along the line to this very big effort. So I think, well, I'm not a Montessorian, I'm sure supportive of our Montessori schools and the results that they get and the families that have been served. So thank you for your leadership on this.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty, and then Vice President Moffitt.
Well, thank you for this update. It is great to learn how some of the things that we've only envisioned have come to pass. So I'm super excited about that.
and the future. I do have a couple of questions. A lot of them have been asked and answered by my colleagues, and so thank you for that. Can you share a little bit about who pays for the training of the 33 participants? In the past, when they attended Xavier, who paid for that? The participant or the district?
We did, the district. We contracted for 10 adult learners each year, so $100,000 a year.
So we are now assuming that $58,000. And what type of, is there a requirement that they stay with us? What is the benefit
Yeah.
so that we don't train and expend all this? I'm sorry, I got my
it's-
budget hat on, but I want to make sure that this very nice, wonderful investment is benefiting us on a long-term basis. Is there a requirement for them to remain with us for 2 years?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. We have thought about that, and we have been in discussions. We have been in discussions with superintendent, with Mr. Hoying, and want to certainly involve Ms. Sellers in those conversations. But we do view it as very important that this investment that we're making is one that they want to be a part of for time to come, right? So we're training you, so we want you to stay in a Montessori school for a certain period of time. The details of that have not been worked out completely yet, but that is on the forefront of our mind, and we'll be closing that up soon so that when we get into this cohort 1, that is established.
So I do hope that we close that before we open cohort 1,
Oh, yeah.
because that's very significant. But we should have data on those that we've invested in and where they have gone. Do we have that data from a like how long have we been investing in the Xavier program?
To my knowledge, a very long time, more that I'm aware of. I certainly can dig into that. I think anecdotally, teachers stay with us, but we have had folks that, moved out of town, went to another Montessori school, et cetera. And I just only know that anecdotally. I do not have hard numbers, but I could certainly find that
Yeah,
out.
I'm very interested in that, because that should definitely be the impetus behind
Correct.
the any type of agreement. But I'm very interested in and would love to welcome you back for an update to that part of the presentation, that there has been some sort of solidification that there is a commitment for the 2-year investment per person, because as we look at the budget and as we look at trying to be fiscally responsible, we need to make sure that we are fiscally responsible in all those areas. Another question that I happen to have, with regard to the credentialing, I know, and this is a very selfish question because my sons went from a private Montessori to a public Montessori, and when we talk about aligning it to the curriculum, there was a disparity there. There was a big disparity. For example, private school taught them cursive first, and public school taught block print first. While that may sound very simple, it really was a big deal back in the day. And so my question is, have we looked at, as we gain some students, hopefully in our Montessori programming, have we looked at not only curriculum usage internally, but alignment of our curriculum and accreditation across systems like private Montessori versus public Montessori? Does the accreditation take care of that?
Yeah, I would say, so the accreditation process is the one that's your program, if you will. So there's certain requirements that you have to do. Part of your self-study is submitting what your curriculum will be, and so there is a standard for that. Again, the AMS affiliation is a little bit higher standard than does MACD, and that was, again, why we wanted to do them simultaneously, so that we are meeting that.
Okay. I know my youngest is 25, so this is a while ago, but it's still pretty relevant when I speak to parents who are looking at coming back to the district that currently have their children in private Montessori. Can we go to slide 4, Rob, and really slide 4 and 5. I am extremely ecstatic about where we're going, but I am a little concerned that community engagement when we have it listed here as strengthening. We've heard from a couple of schools, parents, and Montessori professionals that don't necessarily work for the district, that they want to be involved. And I know we talked about, and I asked a question via email around the Montessori Advisory Group, and there was some differentiation that was provided from one of the parents, who's a Montessori parent, about what we currently offer, which is just passing information along versus true engagement to parents that want to be involved. Can you talk about when the Montessori Advisory Group is the true advisory group that consists of them sitting at the table, parents, community members that are not a part of the LSDMC that you mentioned, or the ILT that you mentioned, and maybe some students? When this was all around a Clark conversation, when we had the whole conversation about Clark having a wait list for their incoming students 2 years ago. And we talked about a Montessori advisory group. Is there any interest in, and I sent that via email.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that? Not just what we have, the group that passes information on and just primarily consists, that you spoke of about ILT, LSDMC, and principals and admin, but getting more involvement from community people.
So I think the coalition has been around for as long as I know, and that is the initial engagement group, if you will. And it does have members from IoT, LSDMC, PTO, et cetera. And there is certainly more than just passing of information to. It is a way to get information to those groups. But it's also a way for those folks there, which could be parent and other stakeholders participating, to share information back. As far as like an advocacy group for the middle schools and Clark and so forth from a couple years ago, to my knowledge, that has not been started. We have worked with the coalition. But that is one of our goals listed up there, is to broaden this engagement piece as to what does Montessori look like in Cincinnati going further, and for all of our schools. This program here is really focusing on getting our teachers credentialed and ensuring that we can accredit all of our Montessori schools. And then what does that lead to in the bigger picture, right? Down the road, does that, mean that we have a different model for, middle schools, high schools, elementaries? I don't know, right? And that's where we engage, I think, the parents and so forth, like, what do we want? Right now, though, it's addressing the accreditation of all of our schools so that we can have 7 elementary schools accredited plus our 2 high schools, so all 9.
Right, if we could go to slide 5, Rob, I just would invite the administration to consider the suggestion made a few years ago to include, I don't see on the work that's been done, a lot of community engagement, and I know that there's a lot of community interest. So I want to definitely invite that to be formed, and then welcome you back with the other data around retention for this investment. I'd love to, before we start in June, and what's the date that we're starting in June?
June 1st.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll have a presentation and an update around what the data has looked like and what requirements
I'll be glad to get that for you.
Thank you.
All right, Board Member Lindy.
Yeah, I'll be super brief and just say thank you so much. Although I have not attended Montessori and my kids have not attended Montessori, many people close to me have, and I'm grateful for all the work you and your team have done. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll give some brief feedback, and then if there are any other additional quick comments, we can open the floor back up to that. I want to say first off, when we made a decision to acquire the program at Xavier, it's hard for me to say that word, I'm sorry. The UC in me doesn't allow that. No, when we acquired the program, part of what we talked about at that time was that this opportunity would present us the ability to not just train our educators, but to create something that could be a revenue generator for the district. And I think, there's a lot of great things that we're talking about here about getting our our teachers educated, getting our teachers certified. There's a lot of great things to that. I think the one that will make us a trendsetter and make us different from other districts, because I just did a Google search in hopes of seeing if I could find any other districts that offered any Montessori programming whatsoever. Did not find a single thing. Every single one of them were private companies who offered the ability to become certified in those processes. And I think this is something that is in part unique about what we would be able to offer, is that we'd be able to offer something where folks can learn from current educators. And I think one of the struggles that sometimes happens when you have outside agencies is that a lot of those folks are removed from the very thing that they are supposed to be giving education on. And so I think that aspect of building up our teachers so they have that skill, so they can also become instructors and be able to lead future cohorts. We can do a lot more within that ability to expand it, is tremendous, right? And it's an opportunity for us to give growth and professional development opportunities for our teachers in the district. So I think that part of it to me is the thing we're shooting for, right? The thing that we're striving towards. I think the other part for me, and this is where I do think we have to maybe expand our conversation in some ways around Montessori, is the difference between the, was it 6 through 12 versus, or no, well, through all the way up through the 12, 6 through 9 and 9 through 12, and our high school Montessori programming. And the reason I say that is that I think there is a lot of effort around our elementary school work. There's a lot of thought around that. There's a lot of intention around how do we do the elementary Montessori education? How can we do it better? I worry in some ways that our high school Montessori, because we have just the two options, is viewed so vastly different than what the elementary is viewed across our district. In other words, we have some folks who view wherever you go to elementary, you may get a good, depending on who's there and that kind of stuff, you're looking at that. When it comes to the high school, it's one option, right? And we've said this for a while. That's why we try to do the divider within the district of the East and West. But the reality is that there are folks who live right on the edge of that who may go to a school that does not live on the west portion of our city, who may feel a certain kind of way about the quality of Montessori education they're getting at the high school level. So I don't want us to lose track of the high school work that we're going to do, that we need to do, as we're talking about expanding elementary programs. Because I think that the reality is that we're going to get to a point where we're going to have to really start to think about where do these students go after elementary school. And maybe we're already there. Maybe we are very close to there. But I do want us to be able to think about that as well. And then the third point, which I really appreciate about the hard work that's being done in this context, is I do think there's a space and a need to expand how we tell our story. And this is another area where we can tell our story, because we are one of the first. We are one of the first school districts that'll be offering this exact thing. And if we don't build a narrative towards the hard work we're gonna be doing for our strategic plan, but the reality for the district 25 years from now, it shouldn't have to be a guess. It should be just known. We are doing X. We are the first to do this. We have this story that is easy to be able to tell every time you go someplace, right? And one of the things I love about Cincinnati at times is that we always tell, there's so many things in Cincinnati that is the first west of the Alleghenies, right? It's the first west. We have those stories, and every place that has that story, that's the first thing they tell you when you go to their building. That's the first thing they talk about when you walk in is, we are the oldest living, the oldest continuously running. We have a baseball team that is the oldest continuously running baseball team. Like we know those things because it's said every day. And how do we make that a part of our narrative about the work we're doing today? So that 25 years from now, they'll be saying, we have the longest running public school program to train Montessori educators. Right? That story is very hard to do when we're not selling it ourselves in the front. Go to Eve, because I saw her first, and then I'll go to Mr. Cross.
Something you said and something the Vice President said that made me think, starting with the engagement piece. This is when Superintendent Mitchell was here, and we had this huge decision. It started with actually Superintendent Ronan, when we had the opportunity to purchase a very large Catholic school for girls on the west side, which was a remarkable achievement for everybody, and what to do with that school. And I think it was a former board member, Bowers, that kind of led the charge on an engagement piece where we took it to the west side. A whole bunch of folks within the district were really interested in making that new high school for us a walnut on the west or something, or there was going to be something else. And actually, through engagement, it was really determined that what was wanted and what would be filling that school would be expanding the already Gamble Montessori that we had, and it needed more space. And I do maintain with the narrative of Montessori, particularly, I do maintain that I think as other districts are devolving, and as our market might increase, I think if we had space and we had accredited teachers, I think that we could probably have a market that would be even larger for Montessori education. And I think that we need to expand those seats. I know we've talked a lot about a third high school ultimately, particularly in the central corridor. We know we have a certain number of elementaries on the east and the west, but we don't have that same number in the central corridor. So I think that there's a market for Montessori, especially if these schools continue generally as a cohort of CPS, get the results that they get, because so many people are very interested in participating in it. So I think this is a great opportunity to find a way for growth and expansion of the marketplace, and finding that narrative that we just have got to do better. Thank you.
And Board Member Crossett.
Regarding the narrative and telling our story, healthy community engagement is a two-way communication. So as you have been challenged to do more community engagement, this is the opportunity to speak about the narrative and to talk about all of the good things about CPS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Matt.
I'll just close as I'm hearing everyone talk about the narrative, and I think that's important that we're highlighting the history and how we've evolved, but I will always stress that it's also equally important that we make sure that what we are offering is of quality, as you have spoken about, because we can't continue to say what our narrative is when people are actually seeing the results. So it has to be in alignment. And so making sure that we are strengthening the focus on Montessori, since this is what we're talking about right now, and all of our schools. So that's what I'll close with, because that will become the narrative. If we're actually yielding the results that we're looking for, then that will be the story that we also tell.
And again, I think the thing that we are living through and that we will continue to keep living through is that as we do great things, we have to make sure those things work. And if those things do work, they're an easier story to tell than if those things are a challenge, right? And so we have a lot of great work ahead of us, and I appreciate you giving us this presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So our next presentation is something new we're going to try here. Part of what we're thinking around this one is giving the superintendent just an opportunity to offer updates within the community of CPS and things that are going on or things that are of importance that we want to just make sure folks are aware of and have knowledge of. And so I want to, again, pass it over to the superintendent for our next presentation.
I appreciate this. Our general counsel is going to join me in this conversation, but I thought a good place to start may be with a topic that is of interest to everyone in our districts, internally and externally, certainly to our families, certainly to our staff, and all those who care about just the young people in Cincinnati Public Schools. Everyone at the table here understands and knows that there has been a lot on social media about all the things happening around immigration enforcement. So I wanted to take a minute to do two things. One, to just remind our public how much we care about our kids and we value and prioritize their safety and security, and we will continue to do that. But then secondly, to talk to you a little bit about our perspective on what we're doing based on what we know right now. I will tell you that I did have an opportunity to speak with the city manager and to speak to our police chief about the presence of immigration enforcement in our city. We have agreed and promised one another to stay in contact and communication about anything that we may know or any hint that may be given to us. So we have shared with our families how we feel about this topic. We've also trained our principals in how we're addressing the topic to share then with their staff as a whole. So I did ask Dan if he would come because he has penned many of the pieces that have gone out around this. We're on our second round. We found that this was a huge issue for us about this time last year. It continues to be a huge emphasized issue for us this year. Dan, can you help me?
Yeah, just add that, we've put together training for our staff. We've trained principals, assistant principals, front office staff, all front office clerks. We went through training last year. And then a lot of our other folks, school social workers, school psychologists, counselors who work with, especially our immigrant and refugee families. A reminder that unlike, other aspects like workplaces and things like that, Cincinnati Public Schools educates all children in Cincinnati, including our immigrant and refugee families. That our families do not have to prove their immigration status when they enroll in school. That's the law, continues to be the law. So we educate families and students, we educate students regardless of immigration status. I think that's really important to remember. Our kids are welcome here. They're supposed to be in school, and they are. So we've trained folks about what would happen in the eventuality of any kind of immigration enforcement that takes place at schools. It hasn't. We haven't seen that in Cincinnati Public, but I think folks know what to do should that occur.
And while we haven't seen it in Cincinnati Public, last year, we did have one concern on one of our properties, and our district was extremely responsive. I believe our general counsel even went out to the schools to ensure everyone is safe, everyone knows what to do. We've also asked our principals if there's any doubt, any question, anyone who presents something to you that looks like it may be of authority, to reach out to our general counsel's office so that we can verify. And so we also want to remind people that we don't let individuals come in and have access to our children without the proper documentation that a parent has said that this is okay. And so this is also an opportunity for us to ask the public. A way to help us help our kids is to make sure, please, that their communication information is up to date. How do I reach out to you? What is a good telephone number? Who are the people that we can have your child talk to? Updating that, if it hasn't been done in a while, would be extremely helpful to us. Thank you.
All righty. Any board members have any questions, thoughts, statements? Board member Lindy.
Thank you. And I shared this in an email with the superintendent, but I'll just say it here in public also. I thought that the communication that went out at the end of January on this was excellent. And I just want to say why. And I think it was clear and it was in line with our values. You referenced some of this, Superintendent, and you did too, Mr. Hoying, but that it is the law that we educate all students, regardless of immigration or refugee status. That we do not ask about and we do not maintain records about immigration status. That any law enforcement officials, including but not limited to immigration authorities, are not allowed on school campus without proper legal documentation. I thought this was so well done because it was clear, and it's clear that what we're doing is not deviating from what we've done in the past or what the rules are. We are upholding the rule of law in Cincinnati, which is that kids come to school and they're safe there. And that, of course, we follow the law if there is the proper documentation in place, but we're going to make sure that there's proper documentation in place. So again, I won't belabor this. I emailed the superintendent. I thought this was excellent. I'm glad we have a moment for it here, and thank you.
I think Board Member Mapp, and then we'll do Vice President, and then Board Member Armbruster.
Yes, so thank you for the update. Thank you for the sensitive nature and the consideration that you all as an administration has taken pertaining to this concern. My only question is there regular ongoing training? I know that there was training that was done last year, but to ensure that everyone is on one accord, and in the event that, and hopefully not, but in the event that a situation occurred, that we're aware that our staff, our teachers, our administrators are equipped with the tools and the skills to know how to respond accordingly.
Yeah, I think recent events have brought this to the forefront again, and so we will be revisiting training. We do ongoing counseling. We get calls about this all the time, and these are the principles that we counsel on and will continue to train on.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure again that there's updated, and consistent training in place. Yeah.
All right. I think we went Vice President Moffitt, and then Board Member Armbruster.
So I want to say thank you for the work that you all have done. And I also want to share that there is pending legislation through the House and for the state that will adversely impact our students. And so while there's House Bill 42, which is specifically around immigration and allowing officials to come into our buildings. And then there's Senate Bill 172, which again, the bill has broad language, but it allows ICE agents near limitless access to our public schools and universities, school activities and sporting events. And so while we have done a lot around protecting our families and our students within the current law, there is legislation that is moving right along that could impact us anytime. And so we need to be cognizant of that. We need to be aware of that. And I know that you all are working very diligently, but, and you're prepared to give us an update in policy, but it is House Bill 42, and it is specifically talking about schools, and it is Senate Bill 172. So we've done a lot, and we will continue to watch very diligently on how we can protect our students and our families, every one of them, particularly our immigrant students. But those are very fastly moving out of committee and will be voted on. And this information came from Honesty for Ohio, and they just did an update about it Saturday, and Senator Blessings was also there to talk about that. So thank you for the work that you have done. And this is consistent and this is continual, and unfortunately it can change very, very quickly. So we need the public's support and help as well. But thank you for all that you've done.
And Board Member Armbruster.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I agree with Board Member Lindy. I think the communication that was sent was incredibly impactful and timed appropriately. So I was able to utilize it to help inform many parents that have reached out to me. So I appreciate that. I would totally agree. It is our legal responsibility to educate these students. I would also say it's our privilege to educate students in our community. Those students, every single student that steps into our building is a privilege for us to care for while they're inside our buildings and to teach and educate for the future. We have a responsibility as a board to ensure the safety of those buildings for those students. And so for me personally, I will do everything I can to ensure we follow law and fight back where needed to make sure that those students that we have the privilege of accepting into our buildings feel safe and are protected.
All righty. Again, I appreciate you all taking the time to do this conversation. I know when we had these concerns last year, this was also something that drove part of what we looked at around attendance of students as well, right? Because students who felt concerns and felt the legit fears about leaving their house, leaving their families. It was a struggle. And I think one of the things we tried to make sure of last year so that folks know when they got to the building what the procedures were, what the things that they were expected to do. I think we've let principals know, and we can continue to keep doing that as we go forward. And then also, we will try to bring back conversations as things may come about and as things may come forward, as we know more information, to make sure that we're able to use even this forum as a space where we can make sure the public is aware of the work that the district's doing, but also the expectations and standards that we hold our folks out in the various schools too. Because I do think, to steal a little bit of Board Member Armbruster's statement there, it is a privilege to educate any child that comes through the doors of our building, but it's a responsibility to make sure that child feels safe, appreciated, and a sense of belonging being a part of this district, right? So that the next generation of students who come behind them get that same feeling as well. And so I think we do need to be looking at, to Vice President Moffitt's point, a lot of interesting things that their legislatures trying to do these days as legit threats to the safety of students and the best ways for us as a district to be able to respond and be prepared for them. So I appreciate you all bringing this. If there is nothing else, we will let our general counsel take his seat. And next on the agenda is a policy presentation from our Policy and Equity Committee Chair, Mr. Lindy.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hoying, I might invite you back up here in just a second. I'm sorry to make you come back up. Please take your time. I'm going to talk for just a minute anyway. But we've had a number of emails from different parents concerned about a new state law that has to do with the date requirements for enrolling in kindergarten. I think the council's office our policy committee met for the first time this calendar year last week. This was one of the items that we talked about. I think that our council's office has done a really thoughtful job of how to do two things at once. One is follow the state law that we have to follow and create a transition period and a policy for families that I think is quite thoughtful. And so the recommendation that he's going, or the proposal that he's going to summarize here in a second has the unanimous support of our policy committee. I'd certainly invite my colleagues, Dr. Moffitt or Ms. Armbruster, if you want to add anything else. But we liked what the general counsel's office recommended. Anything else you want to add? Mr. Hoying, if you wanted to maybe summarize what the state law does and then how we're proposing we respond to it, that'd be okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So this is a result of House Bill 114 passed in and signed into law in January. And the legislation requires that all school districts go to a date of the first day of school by which a student must have attained the age of 5 to enroll into kindergarten. Again, by itself, no objection by the district, but for the last many decades, Cincinnati Public Schools has used September 30th as the deadline by which a student must turn 5 to be eligible for kindergarten. And this is a particular problem, to make this change is a particular problem in CPS, where we have such a robust early childhood preschool program. We have 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds who are already on their either first or second year of preschool, expecting to enroll into kindergarten next year, who will not have attained that age of 5 by the first day of the school year, projected to be August 19th. They will obtain the age of 5 by September 30th. What we have proposed to the policy committee and asking for your support here would be for the next 2 years, the 26-27 and 27-28 school year, to use the board's discretion to allow children who fall within that date, their birthday falls between the first day of school and September 30th, to be accepted into kindergarten per an early admission process. If you approve, we would, that would be the change to board policy, and again, applicable to the 26-27 and 27-28 school years. Welcome your questions.
Any questions from board members? Vice President Moffitt.
Just a point of clarity, Council Horn. This legislation was only to public schools, right?
Only to public schools, doesn't apply to private schools, that's right.
Okay, I just wanted you to repeat that for
Yes.
the people in the back, that this is directly related to public school students and their entrance into kindergarten.
Correct.
Thank you.
The board members? Board Member Bolton.
Yes, thank you for working on this policy. Appreciate it greatly. It came before us in finance a couple of months ago, and I think it was of concern, and certainly appreciated the parent advocacy regarding making us aware of the exception that even the law allowed, which I think was very important, because initially it looked like, oh gosh, we won't be able to do anything about it, but the exception did. And to the Vice President's point, there's just one more example of an effort to draw down the enrollment in public schools in the state of Ohio. And so I'm glad you guys have worked through it. Thank you very much.
Board Member Mapp.
Just a point of clarity as well, as we talked about at our Saturday's meeting, the exception allows for up to January 1, right? But the September 30th still, we honored the September 30th day because that's what we typically would allow previously.
Yeah, so the law has always allowed the district more discretion to early admit students whose birthday falls, again, previously after that September 30 deadline, but before January 1. As long as the board has the most discretion up to that January 1 deadline, we would be asking the board, and we have used that very sparingly, for the next 2 years as a transition, we're proposing that between the first day of school and September 30th, that the board would essentially say, we will accept those students for early admission if their parents are asking to enroll them in kindergarten. After September 30th, that families can still apply for early admission, but we would be using the same procedures we've always, there's an evaluation process, and if families qualified, then they would be eligible for early admission.
Okay, that clarity was really helpful. Thank you.
All right, so do we have a motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Treasurer Gus.
Ms. Armbruster?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Mr. Crossett?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Ms. Mapp?
Yes.
Vice President Moffitt?
Yes.
And President Gregg?
Yes. All right, so that is passed. And I believe there was a second resolution. Chair Lindy?
Yes. And Dan, am I remembering correctly, these two were paired? They essentially go together.
General counsel
just
thinks you
getting
can just
your
go sit
cardio
down in the
today.
middle of a meeting. I don't. Gotta get
No,
the steps
he
in.
just reasonably expects me to remember
There's-
more about
there
what we
are
talked
two-
about.
We have two policies that relate. The kindergarten policy, which is what you just passed, also allows that early admission. We also have to update our preschool policy, and that's the 5112.01.
And they go together.
They do. The preschool, starting next year, the cutoff date to enter our preschools will be that a child has reached the age of 3 by the first day of school.
And we need these to be in parallel, so.
That's right. So that in 3 years from now, we're not still having families that are falling in this.
So gratitude for our administration for thinking 3 years down the field. There's no new content here, and I move that we adopt this recommendation.
A second.
Any discussion? Board Member Crossett.
This is relate only to the CPS preschools and not the preschools that are in preschool promise, is that correct?
I don't know why you moved.
We only set the admission policy for CPS preschools. It would be advisable for preschool promise schools to be doing the same thing, so that, again,
But this policy doesn't.
this policy only applies to CPS preschools.
So to reiterate what Board Member Moffitt brought up, this does could potentially create an admission to kindergarten not disparity, but disproportionate to private schools, correct?
So there are no age rules for preschool. Schools can come up with their own. What we're trying to prevent is within our preschools that we're not creating the problem. Yeah.
I understand, but it allows for the difference within the money that comes from the public to pay for preschool. It allows for a difference between a public school and a preschool promise school in terms of how they can admit kids and their kids can maybe not be prepared to get to CPS. Correct? Possible?
Possible. I'd have to think through that question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Board Member Bolton.
That's an interesting, I hadn't thought about that, because we do get some kids, and we encourage kids from the preschool promise schools to join us. I mean, so if nothing else, I want to have the administration have some real conversation with the preschool promise folks.
Certainly.
So I think that I hadn't even thought about that. That's great. So yeah, make them fully aware.
So what we're trying to avoid, both at Preschool Promise and in our own preschools, is lots of the funding sources for preschool contemplate 2 years of preschool. So what you don't want is a kid who has gone through pre-K1 and pre-K2 and now is still not eligible for kindergarten.
Right.
So we'll have those conversations.
Be great. Thank you.
Vice President Moffitt.
So we talked about this a little bit at the retreat business meeting that we had. And the question was asked kind of in the inverse. What if you have a student whose parent wanted them to take 2 years, but because of their birthday, they would be forced into kindergarten? So I think I'm asking that right. Oh, wait. So
They won't be forced into kindergarten. If they are asking to move into kindergarten, even though not eligible under House Bill 114, that as long as their birthday is before September 30th, the board would be offering them early admission. If a family decides, I'm not ready for kindergarten yet, even if they're looking for a third year of preschool, the early childhood, again, a lot of times those funding sources are really contemplate 2 years. The early childhood department has started to look at whether there are other options for a third year of preschool. But some of those funding sources are really limited to just 2 years. That's one of the issues.
Yeah, but I thought we asked that question around the student who is eligible under the legislation to go to kindergarten, but only had the 1 year of preschool, but wasn't really ready for kindergarten, but they would be in kindergarten because of their birthday.
Is
I thought we asked that
this
question.
helpful, Dr. Moffitt? I don't think preschool is a requirement. So if a 5-year-old comes to us to enroll in kindergarten, preschool isn't a prerequisite that we look for. So whether you had 1 year, 2 year, or 0, I'm not saying it doesn't matter to us, but it won't stop you from being able to get into our kindergarten classroom.
No.
I think I have an answer for you. Sorry.
That's not what
Because my kids are September birthdays. I couldn't enroll them in CPS preschool because they would have automatically been enrolled in kindergarten. CPS will automatically get you into kindergarten if you're at that age point. So if you turn 5 by the first day of school, you are automatically in kindergarten, even if you only did that 1 year of preschool. And per the previous rule, you would have been intending to go to a second year preschool. They legally have to put you into a kindergarten. You could talk to there's the thought of doing a second round of kindergarten, that's a whole other conversation, but you are correct. Legally, they have to enroll you in kindergarten.
So that was one of the questions that I asked for in my kind of, God bless you, like assignment / data dive in how many students would fall in that category where they have to go to kindergarten and they're not academically ready for kindergarten, but they have to. So it's not for you to answer now, but that was what my question was asking for at our retreat/board meeting, are those types of scenarios. In the inverse, we've got the third year possibly looking into that, but what happens when that student only did 1 year of preschool? It's not required, but they're not really ready for kindergarten, but legally they have to go to kindergarten.
So I'd have to double check with early childhood, but I believe our enrollment policies for preschool have been, if you are age eligible for kindergarten, we are enrolling in kindergarten. That student wouldn't be eligible for a preschool spot at that point. And part of that is because, again, preschool funding is really limited. Kindergarten, we are getting state funding for, so we have not made kids eligible for preschool if they are eligible for kindergarten.
I completely get it, and we can take it offline, because really preschool is not the issue.
Yeah.
Having to repeat kindergarten, because you're using, instead of it being 2 years of preschool, and then you're ready for kindergarten, some students may fall into having to do 2 years of kindergarten. So it was because they weren't ready for kindergarten. So we can take it offline, because it's not about preschool, it's about being academically ready. So that was one of the questions that I had asked for more research on. So we can take it offline.
And I think maybe later what would be a good thing is we can certainly address in policy committee about the effects of some of the legislation, in addition to what we were talking about with regards to making sure students are able to enroll. Is a potential earlier date means a child who would have otherwise been eligible or not eligible, and then it would also result in another child who otherwise may have had other options, not having those same options because of the start time. So those are certainly things we can look at, as the effects of those things and whether or not some additional policy considerations might be warranted. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Treasurer Guston.
Ms. Armbruster?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Mr. Crossett?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Ms. Mapp?
Yes.
Vice President Moffett?
Yes.
President Craig?
Yes. So now we're at the point where we have our amended portion of our board agenda with regards to a resolution that was offered earlier. So I will leave it open to you. Board Member Lindy?
Yeah, so I'm going to motion that we adopt this resolution for cost of living adjustment based on recent negotiations with the unions. Do we need to read it? Is there a way we can distribute a copy of this or post it online? I'm happy to read the first part and then we can rotate.
Yes, let's do that. So we'll start with you, Board Member Lindy, to read the first paragraph.
That's great. Okay, reading the first paragraph. So this is a resolution for cost of living adjustment, COLA, whereas the Cincinnati Public Schools Administration has met with representatives from the union groups that represent CPS employees and presented the board with an offer from the unions to resolve the salary reopener provisions in CPS's contracts for the remainder of the 2025-26 school year and the 2026-27 school year. And we're going to go this way.
Yes.
Whereas the Cincinnati Board of Education approves a 2% cost of living adjustment with the Cincinnati Federation of Teachers, Cincinnati Federation of Office Professionals, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, the Cincinnati Association of Administrators and Supervisors, the Greater Cincinnati Building Trades Council, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 20, employees effective December 28, 2025.
Whereas the Board of Education approves an additional 2.0 cost of living adjustment for all the above referenced groups to be effective July 1st, 2026 for CFT, CFOP, AFSCME, CAS, GCBTC, and the Carpenters Unit effective August 1st, 2026 for CAS, and
Whereas, consistent with past practice, the Board of Education approves the above referenced cost of living adjustment increases to apply to superintendent, treasurer, and all other unrepresented CPS employees.
Be it finally resolved that the Cincinnati Board of Education authorizes the superintendent and the treasurer to approve the COLA negotiation reopener agreements as detailed above.
All righty, so we have a reading, we had a motion,
Second.
we have a second. Do we have any discussion? Board Member Lindy?
Yeah, I'll be real quick. I appreciate the speed with which our board meetings are moving in 2026, and I want to keep that trend going. But I did make the motion at the beginning to add this to the agenda and motioned here and wanted to say a quick thing about this. The credit for this, I think, goes to our administrative team and to the unions, not to me. But I appreciate about this process a couple things. First, I think the unions were helpful for us in the spring when we were trying to get through a very difficult budget process in not asking for a COLA in the spring. That was not common in my time on this board. It was really helpful, and we were, I appreciate it. Second, I asked our administration when they brought this proposal to us, do we know how we're going to pay for this? Because I can only vote to approve something if we have a plan for how we're going to pay for it. And they were able to answer with a plan for how they're going to pay for it. And so that matters a great deal to me, and I appreciate it. Third, this is a good thing to do because it is expensive out there, and it gets more expensive, and I'm glad we can do a COLA. That's it. Thank you.
Board Member Armbruster, then Board Member Bolton.
This is my first time working through this, and I just want to give a shout out to the administration and the unions. It was incredibly clean, and I appreciate that it went so smoothly, and I appreciate that everyone came to the table with earnest intentions, and this is not easy. None of this is easy. We know what our teachers deserve. We also understand our budget constraints, and everyone came trying to do their best. And I just want to say thank you to all involved.
Board Member Bolton?
Like any successful negotiations, both sides found what they could live with, and we know that's about all this is what they can live with, both our members of our unions and also this district. This is as much as we could probably come to grips with, and appreciate the wisdom that everyone has shown to recognize that. And this should not be in any way, shape, or form interpreted that we are in any less economic struggle than we are, but that this is a worthy resolution of settlement at this time, not only to get us through this year, which this is more money in this year itself, but also to next year, and the year after that, it becomes even more critical. So the public needs to be aware of our economic circumstances. And I'm glad that we've been able to, the administration and the unions have been able to work this out.
Any other comments? Vice President Moffitt.
I just want to say to all of the represented and unrepresented, we see you, we know that we are asking you all to do Herculean feats, but we appreciate you. And I wish we could give you all 50%, but we can't. So okay, more. But at the end of the day, thank you for all that you do. And I know it's hard sometimes coming up here, having to deal with all of us, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
I will say these types of things are about collaboration in a lot of ways that are not seen in the public and not talked about in the public about how a district operates. Make sure every child is educated with the best quality education they can get. So it's applauding the hard work that goes into that, applauding the hard work that goes into all of the folks who helped pass our levy and that will work hard for this district as we go forward. And about also recognizing, as several folks have said, there's still challenges ahead, and there are still things we're going to have to figure out as we go forward, but it's better to do that in a state of collaboration and certainty than in a state of uncertainty and dysfunction. So as we see across the state, or across the country, really, other districts struggling to maintain some of their unions, their relationships with their unions that are not built on continuous strikes and continuous efforts to be combative, we've been able to do something that's more collaborative here. So I will turn it over to Treasurer Guston. Oh, I'm sorry, Board Member Matt.
I'll be really brief, but I just want to say that I concur with everything that my colleague stated. No, this is not an easy process to navigate, but it truly is built on collaboration, as you have shared. And so thank you for everyone's hard work, and just looking forward to continued understanding and collaboration as we're preparing to navigate this upcoming budget cycle. So thank you.
All right, Ms. Armbruster,
Yes.
Ms. Bolton,
Yes.
Mr. Crossett,
Yes.
Mr. Lindy,
Yes.
Ms. Mapp,
Yes.
Vice President Moffett,
Yes.
President Craig.
Yes.
You started early.
All righty. So our next topic of discussion will be our board matters, inquiries, updates, and assignments. First, we had two matters, or at least brought to our attention, to be added to the agenda today. However, if there are any others, please feel free to share. But up first, Board Member Bolton.
Thank you very much. And this won't take much time, I don't think, because it's actually been a theme throughout the evening, what I'm about to talk about. And it's catching us up on some of the things that are happening in Columbus that are important and affect CPS. One of the things that happened in this last couple of months is that the Ohio Ethics Commission determined that those people that are in the same sort of position as we are as board members of a school district or a school should submit the appropriate documents that we submit regarding conflicts of interest. And we are required to do that on an annual basis. The Ohio Ethics Commission made a rule to ask certain leadership of certain charter schools to do the same. And in that ruling, unfortunately, that would have leveled a little bit of the playing field, which keeps getting unleveled every chance Columbus gets to talk. What happened was that the state legislature and other leadership within the state basically made another rule, another law, if you will, and took a position that forced the Ohio Ethics Commission to rescind that decision on January 30th of 2026. And so now the continuing difference between the kinds of ethics requirements of a school board like us versus the boards that control charter systems, again, it's an unlevel playing field. And indeed, here, I applaud, I almost did a kudo to the Ohio Ethics Commission because it took them about a decade to do that in the first place, but it only took about 30 days for the state legislature and other leadership in the state to rescind that act of courage on the ethics part. So I didn't know if we wanted to discuss it or if that's going to be left unsaid. At the current time, there is no plan on holding similar folks to us regarding charter leadership under the same rules and regulations as we live.
I think this is an excellent point of, again, establishing the differences in treatment between how public dollars who go towards public education come with strings, and as public dollars that go to charter and private education do not come with those same strings. So it's a great point to always keep in mind. You know, again, we also recognize that recent charters who have had issues with ethical practices, it will behoove folks maybe to actually agree to be more ethical in some form or way or being held responsible for it, but it does not appear to be where the state legislature wants to go. Are there any other thoughts on this particular issue? All righty. Board Member Bolton, you want to hit your other one there?
I appreciate the chair allowing me to present that previous issue, and now we have another issue again that indicates the Columbus's position regarding public schools. As some of you know, the state of Ohio passed universal vouchers a few years ago, and we are in the midst of universal vouchers. Almost 20 years ago, vouchers were passed under certain circumstances. Families could receive them, schools could receive them. 20 years ago, you could receive them possibly if you had a need regarding income, or you were being forced to attend a underachieving school as ranked or rated by the state, you could get vouchers. Well, about 3 years ago, the state of Ohio decided that we were going to have universal vouchers this time. And universal vouchers now don't necessarily go to families or under any particular condition, but instead they go directly to certain schools or certain groups of schools directly. And it doesn't matter if you are living in a neighborhood where you have a high achieving school. It doesn't matter now about your income. Although somebody has now introduced a possible piece of legislation this past week or last week, which said people that get $500,000 annual income, they don't get vouchers. Well, that represents less than 1% of the people that are getting vouchers. The reality is this voucher piece now, as some of you know, the school district, CPS, and 330 other school districts out of 607 have participated financially in waging a legal case to say that this is against the Ohio Constitution. And as some of you know, as we've reported, that case has won in Franklin County, and it has to now go to the Ohio Appeals, and it has to eventually go to the Ohio Supreme Court. But right now, this is a very important legal case. And the case that's being made is that this is unconstitutional to be spending this kind of money, especially without accountability, in such great numbers of dollars. And so there have been threats against school districts, I think maybe a few extra audits here and there. If I recall, even here in CPS 2 years ago, we had a little extra couple of visits from the state folks. But the reality now is that State Representative Callender from, I think, Concord, Ohio, has now introduced a piece of legislation. And that piece of legislation is House Bill 671. And it says that if you're a school district that is participating in the voucher case, his proposal in this law is to withhold your state foundation dollars and in reserve, so to speak, in escrow, so to speak, until you stop doing that, stop participating in the district. Now, we kind of hope there's strength in numbers of fighting this, but the reality is this would be a financial disaster for many, many districts. And I asked, if I may, Mr. Chair, ask the treasurer to tell us what kind of money that would represent if indeed this would possibly go through.
Yes, thanks, Ms. Bolton. We receive approximately $156 million annually in state aid. Out of 634, just to give you some perspective there.
So that's 25%.
Roughly a quarter of all of
our annual budget from the general fund budget. And again, we hope that this is going to be resolved in some other way. And indeed, now the folks that are being part of the suit, I know those attorneys have now taken on this responsibility to fight this. as well as you can't ask school districts to individually keep fighting these kinds of legal ramifications. But that would be 156 million withheld until we were to stop participating in this, a case that is already won, at least at the county level. And it would be devastating. I think the treasurer told me how many, and this would not be where we would focus, but that this kind of money means how many teachers?
I do not remember. I remember we talked about this. I don't remember the number. It was substantial. Do you remember the number?
Yeah, I think it was like 1,400.
It would be, yeah, thousands of
And
FTEs.
if you start to do this with the other parts of our budget, 50 million regarding transportation and what have you, or how many schools could we actually afford to keep open? So again, this is something that has to be fought, and I have every confidence that suburban schools, urban schools, and rural schools will fight this, and ultimately, I think we will win. But again, it is one more example of really the attitude and the perspective that Columbus has. So our school district, we've joined that lawsuit to protect our own taxpayers' dollars and also to live by the Ohio Constitution. So, but we just, every day, as this vice president mentioned less than, an hour and 15 minutes ago, about things that are happening in Columbus on a daily basis that are specifically designed to interrupt, disrupt, and deny public schools in the state of Ohio.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Board Member Armbruster?
I'm sorry I didn't get this on the agenda, but it came up Friday afternoon during one of my school visits, and I just wanted to bring it up here really quickly. So I had the pleasure of visiting a middle school, and they brought up the naming concept, and I know that's a board responsibility, so I wanted to bring it here. I've heard that it's our responsibility. I've not heard a timing for that, and this school really was wanting to be able to do branding efforts, get out some swag, like have that whole school spirit really come to life. And so I would encourage whatever that process looks like for us to really get moving on that, because I think that it made a lot of sense for us to help build that school culture that we're talking about with middle schools by giving them their names.
Board Member Lindy?
So just one possible, we don't have to do this, but last year, our policy committee did look at the policy for naming schools. We made some, I thought, thoughtful improvements, chiefly about soliciting perspective from students, right? Wasn't that one of the changes that we made? One thing we did not do, if I'm reading this correctly, is put any kind of timeline on it. So I think you've identified, and it might be we don't need to do that because the administration already has a plan and a timeline, and that's fine. But I also, unless I would invite Ms. Mapp to share if she has a different memory.
No, you've summarized what we covered last year in policy correctly.
So we could, I think there may be a process in place for these schools that will already run more quickly. If for the future, people would like policy committee to look at a timeline for that, happy to, or not.
Vice President Moffitt?
So I had that amongst one other thing on my list as well. There's been one school that's been very vocal. I shared it with President Craig, and I don't know why. I don't know if this is something that is coming up, that the schools are getting the impression, or the community is getting the impression that we were talking about this soon, but I do like the idea of community engagement. I think that it's great to have the principals weigh in on what they think, and but I also really, really would encourage community council involvement, which is where we've heard from for two emails around one school, and a timeline. So I don't know, I had that down to speak to that under board update. Superintendent Murphy, can you talk about what is being said to schools that they're getting the impression that they're emailing us like, hey, now we need to, this is our opinion?
They have been having conversations about it, and I think everybody understands it's a board decision. We have not set a timeline because there's a variety of dates to cover all of the schools. So whenever you want us to bring ideas or thoughts to the board, we're happy to do that, but we understand the schools don't make the final decision.
Well, I guess my question is around what other type of engagement has happened? They understand that it's at the board level, but are we surveying students? Are we asking parents what their thoughts are? Has administration visited any community councils? We've heard from one particular community council that's very, very vocal. They've taken a vote on, on what they think that the board should not do. And so what level of engagement has happened?
I know that a survey has been done, but I can't tell you that every community council has been visited. I don't know that information. Mr. Badge is out today, but I don't think he has personally visited community councils.
Can you share who the survey was with?
Right, yeah, it was launched with the schools, with the students for their input.
So we surveyed the students?
Yes.
Have we surveyed the parents, the staff?
I think
know?
the staff perhaps, I don't know yet if the parents have been surveyed.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Bolton.
Yeah, I think a timeline is important. And I know that the Hartwell Community Council has expressed recently, but I will recall, I think it was 18 months ago, I believe the Millvale folks said that they wanted to make sure that Ethel Taylor's name remained there for Ethel Taylor Middle School. I think it's important to have the conversation. I think part of the issue for me has been just on the branding of the middle schools, that they are not neighborhood schools, that they are more regional in nature. And that has to be part of the branding if we want to attract the kind of enrollment. I enjoyed a couple of the letters, particularly as a person that spent 36 years next door to Hartwell, as I taught in Wyoming in the Valley. I know how they feel about it. I know I was there for the groundbreaking. There's even a picture of me. I won't even say how I look in that groundbreaking, almost, at least better than I did at the Aiken groundbreaking this past week. But at any rate, I know how they feel about the name of the school, and I think it's great that we have our own people out at the schools trying to do surveys and do engagement, and I think that's great. My issue is the neighborhood part of it is not going to necessarily help the branding. And currently, of the middle schools, Pleasant Hill doesn't carry the College Hill name, so isn't necessarily seen so much as a neighborhood as such. And that's what College Hill used to be called, I guess. But then the others, we have South Avondale, we have Evanston, of course we have Schroeder Junior High right now. And then Hartwell, I think even last week we talked about the unusual array of grade bands at Hartwell. So this is a good conversation for us to have as we move the next step closer to our actual middle school stuff. But I do think we need to do it as quickly as we can. But with the engagement, I think the policy policy reminded me at least 2 meetings ago that they had indeed put in the new policy, or the policy of naming schools, I think student participation's being part of it. So I think we're right at the right time to come to grips with what this might mean for our 6 middle schools.
Do you have, Board Member Mapp, do you have anything on this particular topic, or?
Yes, I am interested in seeing what the different schools and school communities present as it pertains to what they would like the naming of their school would be, and obviously seeing where we go as a board. But I do have concerns about the messaging that we're saying when we tell our community that we shouldn't name them after the neighborhood in which they reside, because there's a lot of pride in that. So if we're talking about South Avondale or Evanston, there's a lot of pride in their community. And so saying that we shouldn't name them after the communities in which they live in, I have a hard time accepting that, because I think that it sends a message that is not, I think it sends the wrong message to our students and families that currently live within that community. So I will be open to continuing to keep those names because, again, as we've received feedback from several community members, particularly around the Hartwell community, there's history there, and people want to remain connected to that history.
So I think one of the greatest things about this role as president is that you can assign yourself an assignment. So I will assign myself in this portion an assignment to create a schedule for us. I'll work with superintendent to do it, for us to go through and address the potential names for and naming options and processes for each of our middle schools. I do think it's a worthwhile, because we had this discussion at the Saturday meeting about how they're structured also and what they're, are they operating as middle schools, as junior highs, and that type of thing. I think there may be value in having community feedback on some of that aspect as well, because I do think the name of a school and the historic connections to schools came up 3 years ago, I think it was, when we were talking about, some of the other school changes we were going to make. And there is a lot of folks who have a real personal connection to some of those schools that has a value. And so I think we do need to kind of address some of those things as well. So, and again, while we are really, really good thinkers, I think all of us have really good brains. We don't come up with only the best ideas. Other folks sometimes have good ideas as well. So we want to get those thoughts as well. So I will assign myself the assignment to work with superintendent to put together a schedule that we will present to the board, so then we can roll out and make sure we have this process done prior to the start of the school year. Like to have it done earlier, but we'll try to make sure that we can get some engagement in within our communities and within the schools themselves. Any other updates, inquiries, assignments? Okay. I'll give myself one more assignment, and that is to bring you guys back an update on our strategic plan prior to the next board meeting. We were shooting to have it done in the community. We were trying to have this done quickly. Some folks' health always comes on the way sometimes, and so we want to make sure that folks know that what we're doing in the next steps. I will also try to bring a timeline back to the board as well on that as an assignment. And in part, I'm saying to do that because I do think we may have to adjust some things from where we originally were, the timeline, because we're about a month behind where we had planned to be. Yes.
With regards, I have a question with regard to the calendars. I did not know that there was a 30-day limit for the calendar, so I erroneously told some people that, and I apologized in that there's a 30-day, from 30 days needs to be in between the first read and the second read. But we also talked about incorporating some of the people's concerns and thoughts that have been shared. So what is, can we get an update on that for people that have sent emails into the administration expressing concerns or questions? How has that been progressing?
I received a couple of emails with some thoughts and feedback, and at the same time, our communications team did set up an opportunity for community to give feedback, families to give feedback via our email. So I will put those pieces together and share them with the board this week.
Okay.
Yes.
And again, that'll be something that comes back for the 23rd meeting with any other else in there. Anything else? Alrighty. Everybody received our consent agenda for today. Do I have any board members who have any exceptions?
I do have exceptions, but I do have some questions about one of the reports, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So as it pertains to the treasurer's report on page 6, line item 3, where it's talking about the contract for the Rawson renovation, and it said that this was approved the original contract was approved on 6/23/25. Can you provide some clarity? I don't recall that, and I went back to the previous treasurer's report where it was stating that it was initially approved. Can you share what what these renovations are pertaining to, and if it was, where to find it on that previous treasurer's report? I mean, I know you probably won't know at this current moment, but I don't recall, as I reviewed that report, I don't recall it being noticed in that document.
I'll have to look at 623 was the like mass approval of all the contracts to start the fiscal year. So that was like the big one where we approved all the like necessary contracts for July 1st. So I'll have to go back and look and see where specifically it was at.
Okay. So is it possible that it was under or noticed as something else other than Rawson? Because I didn't see anything pertaining to the Rawson renovation.
I can look it up real quick if you give me a minute, I'll go look and see. Probably under that vendor, but I'm not sure.
Okay, and what do those renovations entail? And the reason why I'm asking this question is because obviously we've talked several times in different meetings as it pertains to the facility repairs, and we know that we have several schools, such as our middle schools, that actively need repairs. And so just trying to discern what the importance or the relevance is here versus those funds maybe being allocated somewhere else.
Unfortunately, I wish Mr. Burkhart was here today. I think he would have a better handle on the status of what's going on. I mean, these are amendments. I'm assuming facilities group, as they're working through their projects, are finding things that need to be added on to the existing contract to get it up to code. But I do not have the specifics. I wish Mr. Burkhart was here today. He would have a much better knowledge of the day-to-day.
Okay. Sorry.
I do agree with Treasurer. I don't know the specifics or why there's being an edit, and he is not here today.
Okay, I will definitely, if possible, Board Member Craig would like follow-up or clarity around that line item. And then if you could just, I know it was approved, but if you can speak to the renovation at Taft Elementary as well as Schroeder with the kitchen cost, I know it's looking close to $2 million.
Schroeder Kitchen.
Schroeder and Taft.
Yeah, and just for the record, the kitchen renovations are funded out of the Student Dining Services Fund. So that is not, for the most part, that's not general fund money. That is specific from the money we get for the free reduced lunch program.
Okay. So those are my questions, but I will go ahead and abstain from items within the treasurer's report. Page 6, line item 3. Page 9, line item number 9. Page 11. And I believe that those are all of the abstentions that I have.
Any others? All right. Did you have all those, Treasurer Guston? Are you good to?
I believe, let's see here, to answer Ms. Mapp's question. The LA Force amendment was approved. It was on page 13. It's the second to the bottom on the June 23rd Treasurer's report.
Okay, so I'll connect with you offline, Treasurer Guston, if that's possible, so I can review it. Thank you.
All right. So I need a motion and a second for the consent agenda.
Move. Second.
Hearing no further need for discussion. Treasurer Guston?
Ms. Armbruster?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Mr. Crossett?
Yes.
Mr. Lindy? Mr. Lindy?
Yes.
Ms. Mapp?
Yes.
Vice President Moffett?
Yeah.
President Craig?
Yes.
I was literally thinking, wow, we're going to finish before 8 o'clock, as everyone was waiting for me to
Yes.
vote on the
You're the
consent
one
agenda.
making it
So I'm
long.
going to stop talking. Thank you.
Keep holding it up here. So see no other business to be done today. The chair will entertain a motion for adjournment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?